Okay, welcome to my channel. Right, so we're going to attempt a tutorial today. So let me just get the images up that we're going to need. My first thing I'm going to do is open up a new scene. So we're going to need a new scene. We're going to want to get rid of that. Right, so we don't want this because this is a square that's been made into a circle, into a sphere. So let me get rid of that. We're going to bring in our references here, what we're going to need. Grab that one. Grab that one. And we'll set it to that one. Okay. Right, so yeah, we're going to go ahead and sculpt Skippy. I got a request not too long ago to have an attempt at doing a hard surface tutorial. Somebody said that it might be cool to watch, so we're going to go ahead and have a go at sculpting Skippy here, right? So the way that I would go about this is I'll set up a few cameras normally. I'm only going to really work from the side view on this one because I've got a good idea of like the thickness of the gun anyway. So let's just go and set this up so that we can have this. I want this gun here, this guy. I want that in the middle. So scale this up to fill the screen a little better. Let's move it down because I kind of want this guy. So this one here, like there's the same on both sides except for this one extra detail which goes down and under the gun over to here somewhere under the trigger, I believe. So we're going to set this guy to be in the middle of the view. So that I think might do it. We're going to adjust this. I'm also going to go ahead and we're going to bring in a shape. We're going to bring in the first shape that we need, which is probably just going to be a cube. Let's scale this down a little. Well, I don't know if we need to do that. We can, because it's a millimeter cube anyway. So the measurements inside Nomad are in millimeters, which I always found just a little odd. So yeah, we're going to bring in a cube. Let's undo that so it's in the center. Okay, so now we know that's the center of the scene, right? So we're going to focus on that. And we're going to move the background so that it lines up a little better. Because what we're doing at the moment, we're just setting up ready so that we've got like a decent-ish area to start working from. I'm going to just go ahead and say about there. We'll set the opacity down a little. Turn the opacity up, sorry, so we can actually see through. And I think we're pretty much good to go. Actually, wait, I want to do one more thing. I want to set a camera. So if you go to under the camera settings, add view, you can add a camera. So we're just going to call this gun main or something like that. Main. So now we've always got that to go back to. So yeah, if we rotate around this, we can click that, click on where it says gun main, and it takes us back to our main view that we're sculpting from. So yeah, with all that, I think we're good to go. So let me just grab my pen. So I think a lot of what we're going to be doing here is, like I said in my Rebecca video, we're going to be just kind of cutting out shapes and trying to make these shapes as simple as we possibly can. So to me, I'm looking at this and this is all one piece. So I think I'm going to go sculpt this, maybe some of this, and I'll cut out some of this shape here. We'll add this in after because I feel like this is, yeah, no, it's the same width. So we'll add all of this into one, and we'll add these tubes and stuff like this down here afterwards. And we'll add this, I think, with probably the tube tool, and we'll just do some cutting away and some trimming and stuff like that. So back to the main view, and let's get this shape. I don't want that, so I just want to validate that, and we are going to pull that out so I've got a view of everything, and we're going to use the gizmo tool, and we're just going to fill up this space because I want to cover this. So let's go about there. Yeah, that feels good. Probably go up a little because I want to catch here, and I want to catch here, and I also want to catch here. Actually, no, this will be a separate piece, so I want to catch here and here, and possibly down here. So if we now, let's double check that we've got symmetry on, and it's for the right side. Okay, so now if I, so we've got symmetry on, so that's going to cut all the way through, and whatever we smooth on this side is going to be, you know, done on the other side as well. So let's go ahead and start trimming away some of this fat that we don't need. So we've got this guy, and I think we'll cut out from here. So boom, got that. This looks like it goes through into this, so I think what I'll do is trim away some of that, so we don't need all of it. Because, you know, once it's inside the inside of here, I don't think it'll matter. We'll sculpt all of this detail into this piece, because I'm going to do the sight here in one piece as well. So now I think we'll that. Cut out there, so we've trimmed out this section here. So this I'm going to do with a tube, and this I'm going to build with a tube, so we'll have to build some more of that up in a little bit. So let's go out there. So we're now going to change to the lasso tool, and we're going to cut away around here. We're going to add this part of the handle afterwards as a separate piece, because I mean it's an easy way for me to keep track of things, I suppose. So we'll go back, so I just messed that up. Do you know what might be better here? Let's use the polygon tool. So we can do this. So you know what, we'll use this to go all the way around here. And none of this has to be perfect. We can fix up some of this stuff later. So just try and get it as close as possible, because like I said, we are going to try and fix this up later. It's not the end of the world if it's not perfect. Sometimes I would use grid. It depends what I'm doing. So if we have to use the tube tool, I'll put the grid on so I can lock to the grid. But having the grid on, excuse me, having the grid on now is just going to be kind of detrimental. So once you've drawn out the shape you want, just tap the inside and it will slice away everything that you don't need. So I think what we'll do now is we'll smooth this out, and we'll get it to a reasonable width so that we know what we're working to. And then we can build the rest of the gun from there. So let's go ahead and get use that. We're going to turn on dynamic topology, because I just feel like you have a little bit more control in this with this. So, you know, if you do a remesh, you could end up with some artifacts around, because we'll show you. Look, so the cuts that we've done are very messy. very messy indeed. So we will, I think, start smoothing some of this out and just see what we end up with. So I think this is too high resolution for now. Wait, I'm doing a mistake here. So I do think the resolution's a little high for now, but we will sort this out later. The idea being that we just want mesh that is not like all choppy and messed up like here, like, you know, so we'll just give it a quick smooth over. You could remesh this. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, I suppose. I'm set in my ways in this type of stuff. I just like having the control, you know, like if like I said, if we remesh this and it goes wrong, then I just have to keep going backwards until it's right. So I'd rather just not. I'd rather have control over it for as long as possible. I did mention that in one of my sculpts not long ago. It's kind of nice to just keep control for as long as you possibly can over any of these sculpts. So what I want to do here real quick is just check using this part here. Sort of roughly how close we are. I don't think that's far off. Yeah, I don't think that's far off. Let's go through down here anyway. So, no, it is kind of off. Okay, so we'll keep going down. Yeah, I think we're kind of close. I mean, I'm happy with that. We're more looking at the width of it, right? So this way, and the gun's kind of, like, I've looked at images of this gun, and it is kind of a thin weapon anyway. So I'm just like, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to gauge the width of the gun, and just like, this is going to be the main body of it. So this is probably one of the thickest parts of the main body, which is here. And I think we're going to try and go from here and just see what we end up with. So I'm kind of happy with that. I'm going to bring this out and I'm going to bring that back out. So what we'll do for that is it's a way, it's not okay, so it's the closest you're going to get to having any type of extrusion. So what I would do, I would grab that bit as a mask, I'd tap the screen to flip it, grab the widget tool, and then you've basically got an extrusion. So it's nothing insane. It's nothing. It doesn't leave you with very good topology either, I'll say that. But it's okay. It works. I mean, and like I said, if you're just, you know, trying to get the base shapes in there, then this is fine. I think, like, you're not really worried about the topology or anything like that in a program like Nomad. I mean, if you wanted to build this and take it to a video game, you'd have to re-topologize it anyway. So I don't really think it's a big deal. So what we're going to do now, we're going to voxel remesh. We're going to remesh this real quick, just to tidy up the topology a little. So there we go. That's our first piece. I think what I'm going to do here as well is I'm going to reuse this piece, because the clip is just a tiny bit thinner than the actual gun. So what I might even do, actually, I'll duplicate this. So let's clone this. Let's set on orthographic. Oh wait, it's because it's masked, so we need to remove the mask. Grab this and move it over. So I'm going to use this section here as the clip. I'm going to widen this a little bit because I'm seeing in this part of the reference that this is actually a little bit wider than the clip, and I like the width. I think we measured against the clip here, so I like the width of it for that. So let's go ahead and trim this up so that we haven't got any stuff we don't need on there. Get rid of that. I'll mask this bad boy off and bring it over. So roughly, let's make sure that we're actually on the right. Yeah, there we go. So roughly, this is about the size of the clip. So let's clear the mask. We'll clear the mask off that one so that we don't get mixed up. And then let's just do a few final touches. I really want to get myself a touch tablet because I've been using the S8 Ultra. I keep finding myself double tapping the screen to try and undo. So I really want to treat myself to a touch tablet at some point, but yeah, that'll be when I can afford it. Okay, so there's that. Let's unmask that. So I want to make this a tiny bit wider than it is right now, but just enough to sit around the outside of this clip. So here's another example of what I was talking about with the topology. So it doesn't look ideal. Sorry about that. It doesn't look ideal here, but we'll fix all that in a bit. So just enough to poke over the edge. I'll maybe go a little bit more just because I don't... The thing about this sort of stuff is if the mesh is too thin, you trim away from it and then later you decide to remesh, you're gonna end up with like gaps and holes where the mesh is like a little close together and things like that. So we'll give ourselves enough space. Let's check that we've got... See, I think we need to come down here a little bit more too. So we'll grab this guy. We'll widen that up a tiny bit. Okay. And there's also a section in there. We'll probably sculpt this in rather than do shapes and cutting things out of it. So that's the clip, the main body. Let's use the clip to drag it around. We'll remesh it as well once we've got it down here. We'll use the clip to drag it around and cut out shapes and things like that, and then we'll remesh it. So let's do that. So we'll clone this. And let's just start dragging it so that it fills the space we need. So essentially what I'm trying to do is just fill the space that I'm trying to trim out of it. We'll do the handle separately as well in a little bit. So I'm trying to find this area. So from about here where this circular shape joins, here there's another edge that kind of pops over it like a ridge type of thing. So let's go ahead and let's do it to the end of that as well. So okay, let's remesh this guy. Yep. And then we're going to start cutting away some of the fat, like I said. So we're going to use I think we'll use the polygon tool for this. So the polygon tool is a great little tool. I love it. It's turn the transparency up a little, wireframe so we can see. Yeah, the transparency tool is like I don't know. It's just a great little tool. I do enjoy it. It's I'm sure there are other programs that have these tools in them, and they probably work just as well. But it's just a really easy and good way to make a shape without having to to rely on your freehand work, right? So if you're drawing freehand and you just cut away, like I'll give you an example of it now. Freehand will probably work fine for this little tiny trim here, but I'll do a bad version of it. So let's just say that you should probably as well, if you're doing these types of things, make sure you're on orthographic. Let's just say I want to trim that away, and I get a little bit overexcited and I cut away too much. See that just right there's a little bit too much. So that's my point. I think that, you know, you can use the freehand tool. I mean, I'll do it down here. Just kind of have to be careful with it. It doesn't look bad, but the polygon tools just give you a little bit more control. So let's use that for this section here. Yeah, it just gives you a little more control over the shape you're trying to make. And I think that, yeah, if you're just freehanding everything, you know, it's fine. It's not like it's against the rules or anything. There are no rules, let's say, when it comes to this kind of thing. But you want to make your life as easy as possible, right? Like, why stress trying to redo and recut a shape when, you know, you've got this tool? It just doesn't really make sense to me. So again, like, to do this with the lasso tool, it's a lot of work. Like, you'd probably be stressing by this point, because you'd have cut something out, you'd have messed up over here, and you'd have to keep redoing it. But this way, you know, look, we can just my hand keeps getting in the way of what I'm trying to see. Yeah, we can just make the shape, and we don't have to cut it until we're happy with the shape that we've made. So there's that, I suppose. So yeah, let's just get rid of that. There you go. Boom, we've kind of cut out the shape of the trigger area. So I think we're going to drag this over a little more so that it's inside of here, because when we merge this, we're going to have to try and make this sort of curve on the cylinder, and that'll probably leave a gap here. So we will turn on the wireframe so you can see what we're doing. Selection mask. We're just going to drag this little bit over a tiny piece, just like I said, to fill that gap that would appear here. So really what we're doing is trying to create a base, you know. So like I said, same way that you would use a mesh in here, like a preloaded, presets. So like in here, you've got pre-made heads, hands, and things like that. These are literally base meshes to sculpt on. So it's kind of what we're doing, and it's important that you get these sections of it right. Okay, so I haven't done that. I've still got the mask on. So it's important to get this section of it right, because, you know, like I said the other day, you're not going to build a house on sand or loose dirt, right? You have to have the foundations looking good before you actually go ahead and build the house. And it's the same with art, right? So if you're trying to create art, so I'm looking at this here. It's kind of thicker than I imagined, so let's make sure that we don't go too thin on that. It's kind of close here. It looks like it's kind of close here. So we'll make that a little bit wider again, and we can smooth off some of these corners and stuff later to make the grip look like it would be more comfortable. So there's that. So if I do go quiet, it's just because I'm thinking about what parts I should probably be working on next. So we'll bring the handle in. Let's do the handle. and then we'll worry about the scope, and then we'll do this. And then hopefully we should be able to get into some sculpting, because no, we need to make these little shapes here. We need to make this shape here as well. We'll need to sculpt this. I'll need a section in here as a separate piece. So we still have a few meshes that we need to bring in. But I think we're not too far away. I'm noticing here that this looks like it should be inside. This is a cover. So yeah, okay, so we'll just carry on with this for now. I'm probably just going to go quiet and do a little bit of sculpting, because like I said, sorry, a little bit of you know, cutting and trimming and stuff like that, because what we're doing is really making a base mesh. It's not overly crazy what we're going to be doing. So turn the magnet off. Yeah, I don't need that. Okay, so let's make the handle. View, so we're not like messing this up. So I want to go past the edge as well, because I'm going to trim some of this away, because if you look here, there's a small release here for the clip, which I think I want to add in, and I'll add that into the sculpt. So let's duplicate this, and we will reuse it, because I just want to fill this area, right? So and we are going to trim away some of the edge. Actually, let's make it a bit wider, because I do want it to be wider than the. I do want the handle to feel wider, but I also need some fat to trim away, right? So if I trim away from here, that means the handle's going to be about maybe down this edge, which kind of looks cool. I'm happy with that. So let's go back to the main view. We'll duplicate that shape. That's tube. We'll move that forward. Keep an eye on orthographic. So I'll cut these out in a bit. These are finger grips. I'm also noticing it comes up here. So this is a part of the handle as well, which I'll trim away after. So I think we've covered the handle. Let's validate these and merge them. Let's merge those two together. So those two tubes can be voxel remeshed, sorry. Let's give it a decent-ish, about 150. It gives you a decent amount of mesh to work with, because we are going to trim away from the back here now. Let's go from the front actually, because then we can see the width of the gun. So let's do that. Let's trim away the sides. Make sure we've got symmetry on. Yep, so symmetry's on. It doesn't matter because we're in the center of the screen, we're in the center of the scene. Like, I haven't moved anything off. I believe we can keep it on world symmetry. So yeah, like if you've moved something around, and let's say the center of the scene's here and your handle's over here, you can, as long as you haven't messed around with the pivot points too much, you can set it to local and it should do the same. Let's leave it on local. It doesn't really matter too much is what I'm saying for the minute, like, because we are in the center of the scene. So I'm going to trim away about that. I don't want it to be wider than the top of the pistol. So we'll go there. We'll go to the back side of it. Actually, we'll go to the main view. And we'll start trimming away some more of this fat that we don't need. So going to set it to a square because I just want it to be a flat edge. We're going to use the lasso tool on this one. I'm also going to, it's annoying me that it keeps going back to orthographic when it's set. So I think what I'll do is after I've done this video, I'll just deal with it for now. But after I'm done with this video, I'm going to have to remember to set the camera to not keep blooming changing. So this is quicker, I'm not going to argue that, but it's just I feel like with certain things you're going to have more control by using standard shapes or a shape that you can edit like the polygon tool. So turn up the opacity a tiny bit. I want to trim out these knuckles on the handle here so that we can just have an idea of where they should be. Yeah, so one there, yeah, we'll trim some of that away. So let's go back to the lasso tool, cut out around there. Okay, I just messed that up. So I think I've got lazy rope on, which is, yeah, I do. Lazy rope's cool. I don't have a problem with lazy rope. But it does sometimes, if the rope's dragging too far behind, then it's like steering a boat, you know, you have to know a certain amount of time ahead that you want to make that turn and all that sort of jazz. So lazy rope's fine, but I'm not a huge fan. I have it on a minimal setting for lazy rope. Okay. Right, so handle, body, clip. Let's put a little bit into here. Let's do some work on this bit here. You know what, because that's a similar shape, I'm actually just going to make that real quick. So we're going to duplicate this. We'll rename all of this in a little while. I'm just trying to get through some of it so that it's done. We'll scale it up this way a tiny piece. Probably just solo this now, and I'm just going to cut away all of the rest of that fat there that we don't need, so we'll trim that off. We'll just cut it away like that. And onto here. That. Let's turn the solo back off. And we need to make it thinner because the trigger's inside the handle. So let's do this. We'll set that there. Trigger. Let's add this. I'm going to add a new node, just add a cube. We'll crank that back down a little. So crank that back up so we can see. And we're just going to validate it. I'm not going to fart around making the shape that way. So let's solo this out. So the reason I'm just validating it is because at the end of the day, we're going to remesh it anyway in a little while. We're not going to keep it this shape. Actually, no. You know what we'll do? We need to completely drop the resolution of this before we validate it, because I need to use the individual vertex edges. So if we come into the settings, this is what I was talking about in the video the other day. If we drop the division all the way down, so let's look at it as well quickly first. So to me it looks like we won't do this many, but let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're probably going to need about 8 to 10 verts to make this look similar. Edges, sorry. I got a little bit of with the burps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll bring that up. Plus we want a bit on the edge, so let's go to 18. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edge. Okay, that I think we can work with that. So we'll validate that now. So what I was doing there, I was trying to work out how many ridges I wanted to put into this safety clip here, right? So I want to put about 8 ridges in it and have a smooth edge and a smooth front to it. I'm not really sure what this is for. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to remesh this. I'm going to scale it to the size I want because I need all of the edges that I've created for this. Let's just keep going with that. So I've got to remember, I will make a mental note to not remesh this yet because I do need it. So let's turn back on the weapon, go to the main view, again with the bloody orthographic. Yeah, there we go. Boom, it's done. So, yeah, if you're having that problem where it keeps doing that, under the camera settings down here, pop on orthographic snap. So what that means is that if you're in perspective and you do this, and then you go like that, it will snap it to. Oh no, maybe that's not it. Is that it? No, it must not be. Oh, so yeah, so sorry, it is right, it is what I was looking for. So I can come off of it and it goes into perspective. As soon as I snap back to the side, it's going to go back to orthographic, which is what I want. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, okay, let's keep going. So let's move this goddamn orthographic. Oh, I see what I've done here. Okay, so let's do this. Let's update the camera. So let's put it onto orthographic. We'll scale this down a tiny piece. Okay, so because we were working in perspective mode, and every time I friggin' well snapped to the, so to update it here, you press on this little pen icon, update the viewpoint, yes, and that's updated that so that now when we snap to it, it will be an actual orthographic view. But what the problem that we have now is that this section here is a tiny bit short because we were modeling with perspective on. Sorry, I'm sorry. I keep pausing because I'm trying to think about stuff and concentrate a bit. And we'll do the same on this. Selection mask. Okay, so now we can bring this shape into position. A bit wide, I don't think we need it that wide. So another thing to think about here is this gets cut out, so this is slightly in. So I think I'm going to bring it pretty darn close to the edges of here, because it's going to be, some of this is going to be not trimmed away but moved with a mask later. So masks. Let's go back to our main view. So we've got handle, body, clip. Let's add this piece here. So I can probably reuse this on some of these, which I'll probably do. So that will be used for here and here. Let's add the cylinder. So apologies if you can hear the noise, the banging around out there. There's somebody working out the back, which means my doggo will probably start barking in a little bit as well. But you know, she's cool. She's a dog. What do you want from me? I'm not gonna tell her off for making noise. So. Shh. Go and get in your bed. Go and get in your bed. Come on. Go and get in your bed. If you're gonna make all that noise, go and get in bed. Bed. Sorry about that, guys. She's quite an old girl as well, so I'm not too hard on her. You know what I mean? Like, she gets away with a lot, particularly with the missus, with my girlfriend. But I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna tell my doggy off for barking. As annoying as it can be, I'm not gonna tell her off for that. Right, cylinder. So we're gonna need that. We want to snap it to 90 degrees. So what you can do over here is under this selected, you can go to the angle here where it says snap. Set it to 90, which it should already be. Oh, 90. So sorry, I clicked it. I'm being an idiot. So I clicked it by mistake. So yeah, set it to 90, and it rotates it on a 90 degree angle, axis, whatever you want. So because this cuts through, we're going to line it up with this one at the front, and we're going to scale it up a tiny bit, because you can see there's a lip on it here. So we'll bring that through, scale that down a little, and take it to the edge. So about there. So because there's a perspective on this drawing, on this reference, excuse me, I'm going to go about halfway. Because once you bring the perspective in, these edges are going to curl round flat like this, right? Which means this is going to come back a little. So we'll leave that like that for now. We'll duplicate this. We'll scale it up so that it matches on the bottom here, look. So we've got that little lip. And then we'll bring it back to fill this space here. So I'm going to use the radial tool in a little while to sculpt this down and bring this in, but right now I just want to make sure I've got enough of the shapes in, and that they fill the space that shape's going to be taking up, right? So we've got that. I'll do all of these extra little things a bit later. I might add that in a minute actually, because it's not going to hurt. So the next thing we need to do, I'm actually going to add this because then it's just done. I'm just going to duplicate that and use that. I don't want to keep dragging in boxes and trying to scale them up to the right size when I can literally just scale this down. I do want this to be thin because I think this is like for a type of, I don't know, maybe it's a grip for bringing the clip out, for getting the clip off. I'm not really sure. We won't make it too thin because, you know, just in case. So I don't want it to look weird, and I don't want it to look wrong. So I'll go back to the main camera. What else we got? We'll need a cylinder here. So we'll do that now. Let's clone that. Clone. There. So this is going to be for the barrel. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do here properly yet. So I think what I'll do, just to be safe, is I'll bring the barrel through here in case I decide to cut this away to a point where you can actually see the barrel. But I don't think that's what the gun looks like. I don't think that's how the gun's made. But just to be safe, just so that we've got the option, I'm going to fill this space up with the barrel. So that if I do cut into this and I decide to make it all the way through, because I feel like this is an exhaust vent for the barrel. You know, where they have like holes in the barrel so when you fire, the flames and the pressure can come out so that it doesn't mess with the bullet's trajectory. I feel like that's what they're for. So I'll see how I feel about it. But this is just a safety precaution, like a measure that I want to take. So we're getting there now. We're almost there with the base shapes of the gun. Yeah, I think it's just the clip now, and then we can probably get into sculpting some of the detail on this thing. So we'll start doing this. We'll bring in a new box because I don't want to... Well, actually, we'll see. So I think this is about the same width as the handle, or this part of the handle. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to cut this part of this off, and I'm going to use that as the base, and I'm going to scale it up and then remesh it. So let's do that, because it's about the right width as well. Maybe I should make it a tiny bit thicker, but it's almost the right width. So we'll just claim that so that we've got a base, and we'll trim away what we don't need using just the square tool. So we'll go to here, boom, remove that again, and there's our first sort of base shape for the actual site. So I'm going to probably duplicate the site and drag it inside of it. So this detail here, some of this detail here, I'll probably just go ahead and add that later. I might, this piece here will definitely have to come over. You know what, we'll worry about that when we get to it. For now, I'm just going to make sure, because look, this is definitely a casing that goes around the site, because it's a techie site. So if you've ever played the game, there are tech weapons which are kind of cool, but bloody dangerous to think about. So they fire bullets that are homing bullets, and this is obviously part of the homing and tracking device of the actual bullets. So we'll definitely add some of that detail in a bit later, but I think for now we're just gonna keep working up the bigger shapes. Yeah, okay, so let's unmask that. I'm gonna go ahead and fill the area, and we're just gonna cut it all away. So mask, scale this up. Now it's important not to grab this here, because this is going to scale the whole thing widthways as well, and we're only looking to fill spaces like this way. Look, so we'll come to about there. We want to be able to catch this down here. Okay. So for this part here, yeah, we'll fill this. We'll just fill that and we'll trim it away. So again. So essentially, guys, you are looking to fill the space that you're trying to work from when you're doing a hard surface model like this, and just using the trim tools, trim away the fat, so that it's a rough shape of what we've got. So that's basically what the crux of this has been so far. So we've been going for nearly an hour. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll finish getting these shapes in, and then what I'll probably do is I'll probably turn off this camera and we'll go to a time lapse on this for a little while, so that I can shut up and you can just see me finishing off and adding some of these extra little meshes that we're going to need, because I don't think we need to go through all of that over and over and over again. So let me just get this last shape in, these last few bits in here, possibly this shape here, and then we'll cut this recording and we'll go to a time lapse for a little while, and I'll start this up again when we get into adding the details and stuff like that. Okay, So let's get these trimmed out. I'm going to use the polygon tool for this, I think, because it's a reasonably complex shape. So if you grab this little green dot, you can move it around. Without actually doing any cutting. So there's that. Let's solo that out as well so we don't. Going to be there. That's the edge that we're going to cut away. We don't want to cut out here, look, either, because there's a like a grip, like a slider there that we probably want to keep, because that's where the clip's going to slide in. Okay, so there's that. We'll trim out this center piece here. We might try and do this all in one shape, but I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know if it will look good or not. So we'll try. I don't know if it's going to look good. We'll do it in pieces because then I can just be a bit more certain that it's going to be okay. Do you know what? Actually, we're going to use the square trim for this because it's just probably a little bit more safe. Do the same here. Do the same here. And we'll trim away that last bit with the, let's just use the lasso tool. Because like this is all going to be remeshed anyway. I'm actually going to separate these two because I know I want this to be hollow and I think this needs to be filled out because I probably am just going to carve this into the mesh rather than go all the way through it like they've done in this one, because I just don't want to. I want to simplify it a little bit if I can. So let's use the split tool. Let's get the split tool going on. Grab that. Do it to the top of there. So now we should have two separate meshes for this. So boom, yeah, there we go, two separate meshes. So what the idea behind that is that now I can hollow this out, right? So if I grab this, solo that out, I'll duplicate it, so we'll clone it, and then I'm going to scale it down so that we can see its inside and then drag it along, because I want to trim out all of this middle. So if we go, let's bring it down so you guys can see it. So I also want to give it a decent amount of body, because I don't want, when I remesh this, for this to be too thin and for it to start having holes all over it and just jump like that. It'll be a right pain in the bootay. So you want to make sure that you're covering everything that you want to trim out. So we're not actually quite doing that over here. So we'll mask this off, drag that forward. So now I'm pretty sure probably going to remesh this first as well, because I don't want to imprint this bad geometry onto the lower, onto the one underneath it. So let's remesh that. Let's do a remesh. Give it a reasonable, because like because this is a relatively thin section, I'm going to actually go a little bit higher, because I want to make sure that I've got enough detail there straight away, because if I have to remesh it and it does start cutting holes out of it, I'll be kicking myself for not adding enough mesh to it earlier. So let's just, that should probably be fine. Yeah, that should probably be fine. Okay, so when you're this is the last thing, and then I'm going to cut the camera and we'll go to a time lapse for a little while. When you're cutting out these shapes, firstly, like I said, make sure you've got enough geometry so that you're not causing yourself any problems. Secondly, you have to turn the visibility off on the thing that you want to cut out, and leave the visibility on the thing that you want it to be sliced out of, right? So this is this one here, which is on, is this piece. This one here, which is off, is the piece we're using as a trim, a way to cut away. You then have to have them both selected, and then go to voxel remesh. I'm just going to crank it a little bit more, and then hit remesh. And then when we spin this bad boy around, when we spin this bad boy around, we've got the casing for the scope, for the sight. So there's the casing for the sight. It's not perfect by a long shot. I might even quickly just go back and crank that resolution just a little bit more, because I'm seeing it looks a bit rough here. And I want to be able to sculpt this up later and maybe clean it up a little bit. So we'll do that one more time. So we'll turn the visibility off on this one. We'll select both of them, and then we're going to crank the voxel remesh just a little bit more. It's not bad. Let's double check around it to make sure it all looks good. We'll unsolo that. We'll go back to the camera view. Boom. So there's this piece in the middle that I need to add still. But again, I think that this is enough for now to just sort of like give you an idea of what I'm doing. So I'm going to quickly get up, turn that off, and then we'll go to a time lapse on the screen. So yeah, okay, I will be okay guys, so fun fact, the camera only records for like 27 minutes before it cuts itself off, so cool, another thing I have to keep my eye on. Right, anyway, let's get into sculpting this up a little bit. Probably going to do this as a time lapse, so what I'll probably do is shut the mic off and just let this play. But yeah, so like I said before, where we are, we've got the bass in. We're going to do a little bit more tidy up and just go over a few things, but I'm going to time lapse that, and then we'll get back into it once I'm ready to start actually adding some proper detail into these into this sculpt. So yeah, we'll turn this off and we'll just let this go as a time lapse. so we've got about 25 minutes before the camera cuts out again. So what I'm going to do, because I'm happy with the base, with everything that's here so far, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly sculpt up the handle and maybe this part of the barrel here, of the body here, just so that will give you an idea of all of the tools that we're going to use throughout the whole thing, and then we'll switch to a time lapse, right? So let's grab everything we need for the handle, and we'll sort that in the hierarchy. So we're going to need these because they're the screws. We'll pop that open. So if you click this, that leaves the menu open for you. So we're going to put that up there. Grab that one. This is all the stuff we're going to be working on for now. So what I'll do is I'll group these as well. So we'll add a group down the bottom here. Call this handle. It's just a way to manage everything so that we don't have to keep grabbing random things and yeah, so that's what we need. So yeah, it's just a way to manage everything so we don't have to keep grabbing random things, and we know where everything is. So boom, there's the handle. So what we'll do is we'll go, let's call this lower body of gun, so we'll add another group. Okay, so if you've got a mesh selected and you press group, it will actually add it straight to the group, which is handy. So we'll call this lower body. And we'll just add everything we want into the group. So we're going to need this. Turn that off for now. We're going to need that. Need this. So those are the two parts we're going to work on for the minute. Just because, like I said, we've only got like 25 minutes with this camera running, so we'll do a quick sculpt of these two pieces here. Let's move that group up to the top, and we'll just shut all of this off because we don't need it for the minute. Right, so we're going to start with the handle. Which hopefully should be one of the easier parts. Yeah, that looks like it's just been cut out of there, so it should be good. So yeah, okay, let's make a start. Right, so handle first. So what I want to do is because I want to soften this edge here, it's quite sharp. I'm actually going to do some painting with the voxel remesh on. So we're going to go dyno topology on, and we're going to lower this right down because I want to in effect chip away at some of this, but I don't want to cut it out. And I think we can just achieve that by smoothing it. We'll go to the clay. So I think we can achieve that by, yeah, look, so there we go. If we just brush over that, it's kind of like chopping into it a little and smoothing the edge. It might not be enough, but we'll see. So I want the same on the back edge as well, like particularly, yeah, from the top. But what I don't want to do is affect this too much. So what I might do is I'm going to drag that up with the mask. So we'll go back so I know I've got the right part. I'm going to drag this up so that I've got a section I can cut off and create a flat edge. I'm also going to move this portion here. I just don't feel like it's straight enough. I'll double check I've done both sides, yeah. And then we'll mask it off. This microphone's getting in my way. I have to try and find a better microphone, I think. So we're going to mask that off, flip it, and drag it up so that I've got a flat edge to cut away from. So I can smooth all of this away, and I can still just trim that off and make it nice and flat. So let's go back to our smooth brush. Oh, it's masked still, so yeah, unmask it. Back to the smooth brush, and then we're just going to start smoothing off these edges. Now I don't want to lose too much of this point here, so I will take it slightly easier there and keep that sort of smooth edge that we've got, this sort of more pointed edge that we've got here. Sorry, I'm going to try and keep some of that. So let's dig into that a little more. Turn this back off so I can actually see the sculpt. Okay. Now I'm going to keep switching to it because I don't want to come too far away here. And if I do, I'll try and keep pulling it back out. So I feel like this might be kind of smooth enough. I'm going to smooth this off some more, because like we can come in and pop some of these areas back out and get a bit of you know, the knuckles popping out there, you know. But I want it to feel smooth, like you wouldn't hold a gun with a square handle. It would just feel horrid. So let's get some of this smoothed, and we'll start trimming away what we don't need again. So let's go gun main, and let's start popping some of these areas out. So let's go with this. That might be a bit too much. Tuck this down in here a tiny piece. Give that another little smooth. And I'm reasonably okay with that. Let's smooth the bottom up a tiny bit more. So I don't want to lose too much of the shape of the handle, right? So I'm going to trim this top off now, and we will sort of up the resolution a little and start making this feel a bit more like a handle. So I'm going to trim that little corner off there too. And we'll give this a remesh real quick, but we're going to crank it quite high because I want to bring some of the detail into it, and we're going to try and sculpt as much of this up as we can before the camera dies, and then I'll switch to a time lapse. Let's crank that a little bit more. Let's also move that out of the way so it's not interfering with what we're trying to see. So I'll probably trim some of this away in a little bit on the inside here. Let's make sure we've got everything on. Handle. Did I not bring those in? No, I didn't. So we need these as well. Sorry, I forgot to bring something in that I need. So I need these two cylinders here. So again, once we've done this, we'll probably even duplicate some of these screw heads. They look like flat heads, but to be honest, I'll probably just use the Phillips screw shape that we've got. We've got an alpha in here for the Phillips screw shapes. So we'll probably just do that. So, okay, let's have a look at that. So there's some ridges down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ridges there. We can add those real quick. So we'll just add so we're gonna add some shapes now, literally just for trimming stuff up. So we'll just do it inside of here. So let's add a cube. Where's the cube? There it is. We'll validate that, because again, it's just a trimming away tool. It's not something that we're worried about keeping. It's just literally for trimming away. So I don't care how the geometry looks. Turn that off. Okay, so let's duplicate some of these and get them down. So I've noticed that it's sweeping in towards the gun this way a little bit. So that's not a massive deal. We'll go ahead and fix that now. So we'll join those so they're one piece. We'll then center and align the pivot. And now we've got, there we go. We can line it up and make sure that it's protruding the right amount. Let's say about there, maybe more. That'll do. So we're going to turn this visibility off. We are going to grab the handle and we are going to voxel remesh. And that should nicely trim away some of those edges for us there. Look at that. It's a little overdone, but I don't really mind it. I think it's literally kind of just to give the suggestion of it being there. So let's just check it one more time. I mean, they're a bit deep. Let's undo it and go a little bit more shallow. We'll grab the joined parts. Turn that off, and we'll just go a little bit more shallow. And we'll do the same again. That looks a bit better. That feels a lot better. Okay, so now I think what we're going to do, because we've got some decent mesh to work here with, I'm going to cut these holes out for where the screws go, because I want to create that dent, that divot. So we will actually use the trim tool and the polygon tool. So let's crack. Oh. Let's get this a bit closer so we've got a clear view of what's going on here. Make sure we're in orthographic still, yes. And let's use the trim tool to cut out these center sections. So let's add the line. This probably, like, you know what, this should probably be quicker if we just, yeah, do you know what? Because this is a silly way of doing it, so I'm going to show you probably the easiest way of doing it. So we'll grab these two cylinders, we'll join those, we'll duplicate them, and we'll use these to trim away the hole. So we'll turn that off, we'll select that, and if we do another remesh, now if we solo the handle, there's holes in it. So that's the easy way of doing it. I was just kind of being a bit silly. So let's go back. Actually, before we do that, let's make sure that these, let's make sure that these screws are sticking out about the right amount that we want. So we'll grab those two again, we'll scale them in just inside the handle. So now we look like we've got a decent depth on the screws. Okay, so I think now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little bit of sculpting on the handle. I'm going to try and bring this shape in. I'm going to turn the wireframe off. I'm going to try and sculpt this shape in. See what we get. Cut out yet? No. Let's use the crease tool wherever you've gone. Symmetry's on. So, let's bring the scale of this brush down. So another way you could do this actually, so we'll try it with the trim tool real quick, with the crease tool, and just see how it looks. But another way you could probably do this would be using the tube tool. So you could use the tube tool to trim away I mean, I think that came out okay. That didn't come out bad. So you've got options. Like I'm not 100% happy with that. So what I'll do is I'll show you another quick way of doing it. Did I do it on both sides? Yeah, I mean it's not the worst. But like, I don't know, I just feel like you could have more control over it doing it this way. Okay, so we'll try this instead. So we're going to use the tube tool for this. And we're going to need snapping on, which it is. So we are going to draw the shape out roughly. I'm going to scale this down. So we're basically going to be using this as a Boolean type deal for trimming away the cutting into it and basically doing it the same way we've been doing with the other meshes. So I think I need to turn the snapping off because I need to drag this up in a straight line. So that's another important thing as well. If you're using this method and the snapping's on, it will snap to the mesh behind it. So this top point would have snapped to this mesh here, right? But now if we rotate around it, oh, I didn't mean to do that. If we select this and rotate around it, you can see that this hasn't changed depth. So it's still magnetized, it's still snapped to this because I turned it off, pulled it straight up, so it will be the same depth. So just little things to keep an eye on, stuff like that. So we'll need to come back to the trim tool. We'll need to select this bad boy again. We'll need to turn the snapping back on because we need to go over halfway through the gun here. So. And as long as it's more than halfway, it won't matter because we're going to mirror the whatever we chop out of it will be mirrored, you know. Okay, so the main view of the gun real quick. I just want to make sure we're following this edge. I'm going to bring this in a tiny bit more than it is on the reference because I've smoothed this off a bit much here. Okay, so we need to duplicate that now, and we need to add this edge. So we'll clone that, close these down a little. We don't need this anymore. And we'll start moving it over here. Okay. We're going to do the same here again in a minute. Well, I want to be past this because I don't want it to live snap to the top of this. I want it to all be the same depth. So move this to over halfway. We'll see how that looks. We'll turn the snapping off, like I said, so that we can bring it in so that it's the same height, and that way it's tucked in with this. And I think what we're going to do now is sorry, camera died. So where was I? We're going to do a trim. So we need to validate these two. We'll join those so that validates them. It automatically does it. Then what we'll do is, I think the best thing to do is probably going to be to mirror those so that they exist on the other side. So let's use the mirror function, and we'll go mirror. These are new options. Okay, so mirror, we'll go cut and mirror, and we'll go from left to right. You want to enforce symmetry, yes. Why is it not? Oh, it's on the wrong axis. Okay. So we'll go do that one more time. We'll join those. We need to go across the Z because we're being silly. We'll cut and mirror. And we'll mirror. Wait, that's not working. So these are, I've got to figure out these options. Hold up. So we'll just mirror. And that's what we want. We had the wrong option here. So we'll mirror on the Z. We'll make sure that's on. There we go. So, okay. Need to go a little bit further across, so we'll drag this over using the move tool. It's probably going to be the same on the other side. We'll just move that over a tiny piece and we'll slide it back out here, and we'll just double check the front as well. The front's probably close enough. Okay, so we'll mirror that again. Hopefully this time we're done with it. So mirror, boom, yes, there we go, that's connected. Okay, so now we've got those. We can use that to trim away from the handle. So we'll turn that off and we'll grab the handle. We'll do a remesh. Turn it down a tiny bit. So there we go. I feel like maybe that is a cleaner way of doing it. Yeah, I feel like that's cleaner. That looks cleaner. It looks nicer. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. It's not perfect. We messed up a little here, but I think again, you know, this is I'm trying to get it through it as quick as I can so that we're not you know, just getting bogged down in the tiny details. I want to show you how these things are done as quickly as possible. So we'll do another trim here. I want to cut these squares out of the bottom. Pop to the camera to make sure that we're doing all right. I'm being silly. I could probably... Okay, so it's been validated. Let's duplicate that, move it across. Add these together, trim that out, and then we'll mask this off. I think that goes in a tiny bit. Looks like it goes in a tiny bit, so we'll mask that off and we'll squeeze that in. So let's do this. Let's turn that off. We'll select the handle, do another remesh. We'll probably turn that down a tiny bit to be honest. There we go. Okay, that's not bad. Let's mask off this area, give it a little squeeze in this way. I'm going to use the lasso tool for this because you can see the edge comes off here a tiny bit. No, we're not. We're going to use the polygon tool. So there we go, that's masked. We can quickly, we need to invert the mask again, sorry, so we'll invert the mask. We'll just give that a tiny little squeeze in ways. Okay, I mean that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so let's unmask this and we'll do some work on the screws. Do you know what else as well first? We'll give this a tiny little clean up because I feel like it's a little rough. So here's another tip. So if you go to this option here, which is next to the voxel remesh options, the mesh options, and you come down to here underneath where all of the subsurface and the different materials are. So this is the materials tab. So turn on smooth, and it gives it a nice little, it sort of stops the jagged edges and it makes it feel less like it's anti-aliasing. Anti-aliasing isn't what's happening, but it's because the mesh is just a tiny bit low and it just quad remeshes it. So it doesn't try and follow any edges or anything like that. You'll need to do that in something like Cozy Blanket if you're on iPad, or take it into Maya or Blender or something. So let's turn on Dynamo Topology. Let's give that a look, and we'll give this a little smooth. So this mesh is probably a little dense. If I was doing a like when I did the Cyberpunk model, the Rebecca model, this would have all been way too dense for that. So I would try and save polys as much as I could in as many areas as I could, just so that we're not wasting any resources, particularly if you're on a mobile device. So if you're on a PC, it's not so bad. I don't like this here either, we're going to fix that. Oh, somebody loves me. So that's that. And all looks okay. So we'll do a quick mask on these. Sorry, not a quick mask, we'll do a quick like alpha stamp on them. So there's a few ways you can go about this. So we'll first of all make sure that we've got, yeah, so we've got a mirror on. So what we need to do is we need to go to the alpha section up here on the brushes, and under here there's a bunch of alphas that Nomad's sort of given you to just toy around with, and some of them are handy and some of them are you know, just meh. Like these ones are quite cool. You can do some like barbed wire, sorry, some chain link fencing with them and stuff. I'm actually looking for one of these is a screw head. They actually took it out. That sucks. There was a normal screw head. Oh, maybe I imported it myself. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be... That sucks. Okay, I'll have to remember to get that for myself again. So what we're probably going to do on this then is we're going to do a flathead instead. So let's grab hold of these. Make sure voxel remote, voxel, yeah. Sorry, dynamic topology is on, and we're going to round this off a little. I think, to be honest, first of all, that's the wrong tool. Second of all, it is way too high for that. So we'll go ahead. There we go. So there we go. We want to round it off a little so it feels like a screw. We'll only do one. We'll just cut this away and we'll duplicate that in a minute. So let's get rid of that. So trim, square. Let's get rid of that, and we'll just work on this one. So we're going to do again. We're going to have to. Ideally, I wanted to use an alpha so that I could drag it out and show you how alphas work, but that might be just something for another video, or maybe I'll have to do it in a little while, I don't know. In fact, we will have to do it in a little while. I'll have to download some reference of the Arasaka logo so that we can put it in on top of the clip. There's an Arasaka there. I think that it also says it down the side of the gun somewhere. So there's a few things we're going to need to do that for anyway, but we can worry about that later. For now, I think we're just going to validate that. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, it's because I'm on the bloody trim tool. Yeah, so we'll validate this, and we will just start scaling it in. Bring it down here. Dynamesh that as well. Or remesh it, sorry. Because that's way too many points. So we'll go roughly about there, in the middle. Bring this out, because again we only need to trim into it a little bit. And I think what else we'll do is we will mirror this to the other side so that we can trim it off. So let's mirror this over. Mirror, bam, world, mirror. I keep getting the wrong axes. Yeah, there it is there. Okay, so I've got to remember to check that it's the x-axis. So we'll mirror that over, boom, turn that off. We'll grab the screw, grab that, we'll do a remesh. How's that look? Probably take that a bit deeper. Another remesh with a tiny little bit more detail. Kind of happy with that. Okay, so let's do the pivot. We'll center the pivot again so it's in the middle. And that way, when we do move it, we can rotate the screws so that they don't all just look the same. So like here, these are relatively close. But I mean, I don't hate it. He's done an alright. Whoever made this did, you know, they did offset them, which is what I'm getting at. You know, you need to have these things off center, otherwise they can't be exactly the same as any one thing. So if the two things are identical, they're going to look weird, which is why I think it's always a good idea to offset them a decent amount. So yeah, but again, there's no hate. I absolutely love what they've done with this model. Another thing that we need to do, we'll need to trim away this here, because again I've just noticed this is actually, it tapers in, so we'll just quickly do that. We'll probably do this with the trim tool again. So again, the point that I'm making with this entire tutorial is that you're only going to really use a handful of tools to sort of like trim away these. Yeah, so you're basically just trying to make a shape and then cut a way out of it. You know, it's like I mean, I guess I'm just describing sculpting, which seems dumb, but I mean, it's kind of all I'm doing. It's not like I'm doing anything absolutely insane. I'm literally making shapes. I'm actually going to use the mask tool. So we'll mask this instead. Did it not mask? It did not mask, because I'm on the wrong blade. Okay, so yeah, we're going to mask it instead, and yeah, we'll scale it in that way, because I think that trimming it away means that we potentially have to muck around with a lot of remeshing and just stuff. So yeah, we'll do it with a mask. Plus with a mask we can soften the edge. So if we mask this off, turn that off, we can tap this and it really softens the edge a lot. And that might be enough. So we'll flip the mask. Scale this bad boy in. I want to keep an eye on it, because down here you can see roughly how far it goes, which is, you know, what we're looking for. And I don't want to pop it through, like, there we go. I don't want to pop it through the geometry below. So I mean, what we can do is we can still chip away a little bit at some of this geometry that's underneath it. But I'd rather just make it look as nice as possible without having to cut away too much of what's underneath. So I am relatively happy with that. Okay, yes, I'm relatively happy with that. That doesn't look bad. So there's the general idea behind it. So we'll move on to this part because this needs to be merged with this part of the gun body. So I think this needs to be merged. That's why. I was like, why is there a gap? It's because it needs to be merged. So that needs to go in here as well. That needs to be merged. That doesn't need to be merged yet. So we can do a voxel merge on these. Get that looking nice. Just a bit, crank that down a little. Fine for now. We will, this one here, we will cut that, we'll validate that and cut that shape out here. So I'm pretty sure there's a cross in the middle of that. Actually, before we validate that, let's add I know what we're going to have to do, because I scaled them up. So that looks a bit more like it. So what I'm probably going to have to do here is actually make this slightly larger than it is, because I like the width of the body here. I mean, it looks okay. Let's work on it a little. So we'll do is we'll scale both of these up. We'll center them first. So remember to go to the pivot, center, align. We'll scale both of these up so that the body is kind of like almost touching it, you know. So let's go back to the main gun. We will then bring this up a tiny bit so that it looks like it merges here, so that's almost a continual shape, and that I think will work. So let's go ahead and trim this out, validate that, and of course because it's a cylinder we can now just make a little cross in the middle, so let's add some stuff that we can use to trim away. So we'll validate this guy. Duplicate that, and we'll set the snap to 90 so that we can make a cross. And I think we'll merge these because then we can reduce the mesh a tiny bit, so that we don't end up with like thousands and thousands of polys in the middle there where we don't really need them. Let's do another remerge, or another remesh, sorry. Crank it up a tiny bit, it's probably over 100. That's not bad. Okay, that's not bad. Right, so let's now focus a little on this part here, because I want this to taper down into the body of the gun. So if we select that and validate it, let's check how many edges and points we've got. Let's validate that. We'll check the surfaces. Ooh, let's crank that a tiny bit, just so that we've got a little bit more mesh to work with. That's better. Right, so what I want to do here, I want to use the radial tool. So we're going to go to the symmetry. We'll go to local. There we go. So if you switch it to local, it puts it in the center of the object rather than the center of the world or where the original pivot was. So what we'll do is you have to have this on, enabled, and you can crank up whichever axis you want. So if we do the x-axis, you can see it starts to, let's turn that off. So if we do the x-axis, you can see it wants to go around this axis here. So this is the axis here, so it'll go around that. So we want it on, we want this off, right, we want to cancel that. We want that down to 1. We want that cranked up. And these have to be off as well, because otherwise it's going to try and do a mirror on the planes that you're working on. So let's take some chunks out of this bad boy. Oh, sorry, so negative. Let's smooth it. So I think what we'll do as well is we'll have to go back to the gun position. Let's trim that off. Trim. Let's turn this off as well, because we don't want any of that affecting our trim. That's getting there. So let's go back onto this, smoothing, let's crank this up again, let's go higher, let's go like 15. And this way we can just smooth this bad boy out. So. So it's tucked in a tiny bit far. I mean, I'm kind of happy with that. So we're going to merge it anyway and blend this, because it's one piece, right? So it's not a massive deal. But I do kind of want to okay, let's merge these parts together, and we'll start merging and blending this here, and then we'll add this strip to go down and underneath the trigger area of the gun. And then again, because I think at that point you've seen all of the tools that we're going to use to make this thing, I'll probably cut this camera off again, and we'll go to a time lapse, and then I'll come back to it when we're going to paint it. So we'll finish this, we'll merge this together, and then I'll cut to a time lapse, and we'll come back when we get to the painting. So let's do that. Yeah. So that. That I'll keep separate, and that I'll keep separate. This I can probably get rid of. So what we'll do is we'll take that, we'll duplicate that, drag that into this group. Come on. And we'll move that to where we need it. We'll also trim that off and then we'll mirror it over. So let's trim that off. And we'll move it over to the sort of where the... Actually get rid of that now. We don't need that anymore. Do you know what we should have done? Let's actually do that. So we can use that piece that I just deleted, this guy, to actually remesh that and cut the hole in it before I get rid of it. So now that's gone. Pop this in. Bury it a little so that it doesn't affect the lines of the gun. And I think, yeah, we can mirror that over. Let's mirror that stuff over. So I want to mirror on the Z, on the local. I'm going to mirror that bad boy. Why didn't it? Oh. Do you know what? We'll do something else because the pivot's a little bit messed up. So what we'll do, we will, is it in the center? Yeah, we will duplicate it. And we will reset the scale. So this one here sets it back to 1 without affecting where it is. The other one resets it to where it was originally. So what we'll do is we'll move this over till we can see it. Where is it? We'll go in here and we'll go... Yeah, the scale's a little bit messed up on that, so I don't really know what's going on with that. So we'll just... We'll eyeball it. Okay, I mean that's close enough. We're just eyeballing it, so screw it. Ha! Screw it. It's a screw. Okay, so come on, you damn thing. There we go. Right, so now we've done that, we can now merge this piece with the body like we were going to originally. So let's do a voxel merge and then we'll smooth this out into the middle. Oh, it's picked it both off. Such a fool. Okay, so let's try that again. Yep, that is not ideal. Okay. So the issue that I was just having there is when I merged them, because these are one mesh now, there wasn't enough of a lip here and it was smoothing it flat. So we'll give that another whirl. So we're going to want this guy and this guy. Let's try that. That's a little better. That's a little better. Okay, let's just do it. Okay, so we're going to merge this down here. We're going to smooth this over down here a little. We are going to crease this up a little more, and then we're going to try and cut this shape out. So we're going to need a decent resolution. So also just looking at this, this is a relatively smooth transition between these two. So we might get away with what we've got. Let's start sculpting it up and see what we end up with. So we're going to dyno topology so that we can always you know, have some things always going to try and it's not going to try and flatten it out too much, you know. Is this doing both sides now? Mirror. So topology's on. Okay, let's start working on this section here. So I want to build this up a tiny bit more to come out here. Probably smooth this out a little here as well. And I'm also going to add a little lip down here. Because like I said, you can see in this image here, it's a relatively smooth transition. So okay, let's start smoothing this out a bit. Let's actually turn this down so that we can like get some really smooth. There we go, that smoothed it out quite a bit. Okay, get back up again. Let's go to the crease tool. Let's crease back in a little here. So yeah, we can see that some of these areas are a little bit smoothed out anyway. So I'm not too worried about how much of a sharp edge we've got. Radial tool one more time on that. And then do the radial tool again, but with the crease brush, so that we can create that hard lip here. Give that tiny smooth. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's do some more. Let's bring that back down. Turn that back on. Let's see how much mesh we've got. We can add more mesh to this anyway, because when we mask we can crank up the dyno topology. So let's go ahead and add. Let's go ahead and mask this out, and we'll try and add that last piece, and then I can switch that camera off and we'll go to a time lapse and we're done to do the rest of this sculpt. So let's go back to our main view. Mask tool, mask brush. I'm gonna take it to somewhere here. There's a lip here, so it looks maybe like that's it. Okay. So, with the mask tool on subtract, let's try and tidy this up a little. Let's turn up the mirror function as well, so I can cut this half of it off. It only goes one side, right? Let's tidy up this front edge. And we'll trim that up with the brush, with the mask brush. so let's do a mask extract. So we were just using the mask tool to create like a dent where the piece should sit that we just extracted. So we're just doing that real quick. So it's just, like I said, to create this sort of lip type feel that we've got going on here. I'm also going to scale that down a little and scale it that way a tiny bit. So I think what else I'm going to do, I'm going to do this so that it's past the edge. Then we're going to trim it off so we've got a nice flush edge as well. And then I think move that up a tiny bit too. So, if we turn everything else on, we have made some progress, and it's not terrible. The thing is these things take time. It's not ever going to be something that's done quickly. But in terms of what we need to get done on this portion of the sculpt, oh, so here's another thing we can do. We'll do this one last thing. Because I remember saying that this is one of the things I wanted to focus on. So we purposefully left this at a reasonably low resolution so that we could do things like this. Let's turn that on. So we'll flip the mask, we will grab that and we will scale those out. So now what we've essentially done, we can grab that one too. Double check that we've got enough of them selected. I think we've probably got a couple more. So negative select, I'll grab just a couple more. Then we'll scale these out. We'll unmask. Scale the whole thing in a tiny piece because we've just widened it and you don't want it to be too. Okay, so now I think if we remesh this on a reasonable, let's say like 200, we'll probably go lower than that actually, because I want to smooth over those edges a tiny bit. I don't want them to feel like daggers. We could even smooth it a little bit more. Go to 100. So that kind of works. And what we've now got is like a grip thing for whatever this might be, and we can smooth this off a bit later, trim it up a bit more. Do you know what, let's just do that real quick before we finish. So we'll switch to the smooth brush, crank the size up on that a little. We've got mirroring on the right side, so we need it on local, on X, and that way you can smooth this edge. Because your finger would be in here, right? This is where your trigger finger goes, so you wouldn't want to have a particularly sharp edge there constantly. It would be a pain and it would probably hurt your finger, to be honest. So yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and scale that up a tiny bit. Move it back out of the hole. We'll trim that off, and then I think we're going to call it. And I'll do a time lapse of this, sculpting this up, finishing up this, and then we'll jump back in when I get to the painting, like I said. So let's trim that off. Not bad. Go a bit more on that. Okay. So that's essentially what I was talking about earlier. If you have a low enough resolution, a low enough mesh, you can select one ring or even one single point and just bring it up to make a spike or something like that. That's as close as you're going to get to any type of box modeling inside of Nomad. Is like I said, having a really super low resolution and sculpting from that, you know, so like literally selecting vertex edges and faces and stuff, and you know, sculpting them out from there. So you know what else we'll do? We're going to select everything in here because I know I want to do it anyway. And we are going to smooth it all by selecting the materials and going into smooth shading on. It's just the last little finishing touch for now. This thing here, we're going to duplicate that and reuse that here and here. We're going to do the same with the screws, and we're just going to go through and add some details now. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop that camera, stop this recording, take a break, and then I'll come back and I'll just hit a time lapse of this in a little while. Okay. Okay, so I think we are going to be now. I've done some extra stuff off camera, just a few little bits, and we are going to finish up. I'm going to do a section of this, just one section. I'll probably do the scope, like the edge of the scope here, on camera, and then I will switch it to a switch that camera off, and we'll go to a time lapse. The thing is what I'm going to be doing here is pretty much what I'm going to be doing over the entire thing. And anything that I see on the way that I might have missed, I think I'm not really sure, maybe I've missed something, but anyway, we're going to do this, and then we'll move on to the rest of it afterwards. So let's get our reference up as well. Yeah, this is our Skippy reference for the paint job. So we've got some nice reference up here, some nice reference here. Something I will probably do off camera as well is I'll probably model Skippy, and see what I can do with him off camera, because that's just a whole other thing. This is more about hard surface and painting, but that's just a whole other thing. I'll do that as a finishing touch, I think. So hopefully this won't take too long. We're just going to be taking a look at the reference. We've got yellow with silver underneath, and this is dark with some silver in here. I may drag a piece of mesh in here just to paint, just so that I don't have to paint gaps and junk like that. So yeah, I'll probably drag a piece of mesh in here when we get to it. Okay, so with the hard surface stuff, it's okay, we'll just do it. We'll just do it. Okay, so we'll, on the base layer, we're just going to add we will go silver. Let's have a look, see how that looks. I think it's kind of close to the reference. Flo, don't start barking, bruv. Hey, don't start barking, dude. Come on now. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of close. We can see what steel looks like. Yeah, this is probably closer. We'll go with steel. Smoothing's on. I may smooth some of this out a little. We'll see. It depends on if it adds to the paint job at all. We'll leave it, but I don't know. Let's have a look. Well, we could try giving it a quick remesh and see how that looks. Yeah, let's try a quick remesh before we move off. Yeah, I don't know if that made a difference. So we'll leave it. Yeah, we'll leave it. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll make a new layer. I keep pressing the wrong button, so we'll add a new layer. We'll call this paint. And we'll add another layer, and we'll call this dirt or grime. Whatever you want, let's just call it dirt. I'm just going to call it dirt. It's going to be whatever you really need it to represent. It's going to be just the grime layer, so oils, dirt, just general dirt that would have probably got on this thing. So let's first of all grab this yellow. Oh, let's get this one. Yeah. So let's grab this yellow. Go here because it's a little brighter. Also, because we're on steel, actually, let's go to plastic. We'll grab the yellow again just to make sure. Now we'll blast this layer with some paint. There we go. Now this is not quite. It's not quite reflective enough, so I want to maybe, let's see. Yeah, I feel like it's okay actually. Alright, so Okay, yeah, so we've got a layer of paint on there and we've got our silver underneath. So what I'm going to do is, with the paintbrush selected, I'm going to turn it to subtract. Well, actually, we don't need to do that. I've got a hotkey set to, so when I hold it, it subtracts away from the layer. So let me make sure we're on the right layer. And there, see, I can just rub it away. So I've got a hotkey set for switching it. You can see it here. Okay, so we'll come down to the alpha tab here, and this is what I was talking about. It's like a scratch or a claw mark. And we're going to have a nice small brush. And we're just going to, I usually start with the corners. And I usually don't have symmetry on because I don't like, this should be random. It shouldn't be symmetrical on both sides. I mean, I don't imagine it hurting, but yeah, it should be as random as you can make it. Because, you know, these things, they will be, oh, we're going to switch this as well. So another tip for this, if you want to paint, is have the camera set to the lighting. Where's the lighting? Have the lighting set to attach to camera, and that way it follows the camera around and you can get a decent view of what's going on with the colors while you're painting. I wouldn't recommend this on all tablets, on all devices. It can be quite resource heavy. Yeah, I wouldn't fully recommend it on smaller tablets. Like with like a couple of million polys, I could probably get away with this on my S8, but with this yeah, I'll probably get away with this on the S8 Ultra. But yeah, this is because it's on my PC, it's obviously a little bit more, it's got a little bit more welly to it, if you know what I mean. So I'm gently now connecting these corners with a bit of edgeware. I'm getting slightly harder on it down here. So just anywhere where you think there might... So the thing is with paint, right, is over time, even dirt and grime that gets into these gaps is going to start to affect the paint. It's going to chip away at the paint a little, right? So in these gaps here, you could still have some edgeware. It's... And again, like the front of the gun in particular, it's going to be going in and out of the holster. So the paint's going to get chipped off here a lot more than it is up here. I mean, we'll give it a rough pass all over. But like for here, for example, you could have like strips coming up, you know, like this half of this might be more worn than this half just because of how much it goes in and out of the holster, right? So you could go a little bit more on some of this stuff if you wanted to. And the good thing about having it set to a hotkey is you don't have to keep going over there. You can just like, this is to remove it and let go to add paint. So yeah, I mean, this is essentially what we're going to be doing for the whole thing. There's not like a crazy amount that really goes into this stuff. It's just sort of thinking about where dirt might build up. So down around these edges, for example, there would definitely be edgeware, particularly at the front here anyway, like we've already said. And then around here there'll be edgeware and stuff like that. And you can like add flex chips to it, you know, like, so if we're, for example, let's add the brush. If we're, for example, going to drag some of this paint off this way to show that it's been like, something's been brushing against the weapon like this, you can add like larger chips areas here, like for example. And if you go too much, you can just add it back in with paint. Again, you could even come up here, add a nice chip, a few chips up here. Again, like even here, there might be some. Some big chunks. We can start getting through this. And look, there you go. If we skip out a little, you can see already that it kind of looks like, you know, just looks a bit more worn. You can tell that there's like been something brushing against it here. I might even add some more. like chunks off the end here, look, to really emphasize it. Like, let's go a bit more bonkers with it here, see what I mean. So maybe she's a righty, yeah, maybe she holds with her right. So this side will have maybe more chipped off of the paint as it comes up, right? So it kind of want to say that like the smaller the brush, the more control you have over it, obviously. So now we can come in closer for these like long running strips. And we can add some, you press gently, the more hard you press, the more you're going to take off. Yeah, but I mean, it's just like, you can see what we're doing here. It's not, you just kind of have to think about what the weapon's been used for and how it's been used, right? So I would say down here there'll be more worn off of this, right? And because this has got like a dent in it, there might be more worn off the top. Go a little closer. And we'll slowly, as we work our way up this letter, we'll slowly sort of ease off a little, if you want, on the chips on the paint and the edgeware and stuff. So again, like I did say in my previous video, there are there are definitely programs that can do this faster and probably a little bit more neater, maybe even, you know. But again, one of the reasons that I use Nomad is because I want to show people kind of what you can do with it if you just get a little creative. So let's pull away from this and see how it looks. I mean, maybe I've gone a bit too far on it, so we'll add some paint back on this side. Take some of this paint here, put some paint back on. And we'll try dragging a long piece across it so that it feels like it yeah, that feels better. So like again, like I was a bit too focused on the smaller details there. So what you could do is just start bringing scratches across it. And then you can come in and add paint back in where maybe it wouldn't have chipped off, you know. So maybe add some back in these grooves here. And yeah, you kind of get the idea. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. You could probably be rougher than what I'm being. I'm trying to do this a little bit more like thought out, so that, you know. I mean, if we look at the reference, there's quite a bit chipped off of the front of this guy, so we could probably even go a bit more nuts with it if you want. Like, let's take a lot more paint off it, particularly at the front. I mean, yeah, that kind of works nicely. And again, like, it proves my point. Look how much more paint is missing from the front than is missing from the actual rest of the gun, you know, because it's going in and out of the holster. So now I think, yeah, like that feels a lot nicer. So I think what we'll do now is we'll come in, keep pressing the wrong button. We'll come in and we'll add some of this paint back in. So let's make it feel a bit more like chipped paint rather than we've scratched it away with this. So if you spin this around, it creates like a cleaner edge here. So you know, you can add some stuff back and try and get some of these things into a point, you know what I mean, to show that there was a release, you know, so it got deeper and then thinner. You can do stuff like that. You just have to, like, you know, use your imagination. Yeah, I'm just having a look at the reference next to it. So yeah, use your imagination, take it as far as you want to take it, you know, and just keep checking the reference. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your art. I'm not going to tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing with it, but this is just what I might do. I mean, that's kind of good. I'm kind of happy with that. And so what we'll do, we won't finish the whole thing. We'll just do a small section of it because it's kind of going to be the same. We'll go around these screws at the front here a little as well, because it's kind of going to be the same thing for the entirety of the gun, right? If there are different layers of paint, like I did with the shotgun in my Rebecca video, then my advice on that is have the green paint underneath and the pink paint on top, then chip away at the pink paint so that it looks like it's been splattered on top or whatever. Then merge the two layers, and then you can start chipping away at the overall paint job. You know what I mean? So yeah. So what we'll do with the screws as well, on the base layer, we will add some iron again. So boom, and we'll flood that. Then we'll add another layer. We'll call this one paint. Again, I don't know if I'm going to do a paint layer on this and chip away at the edges as much as I am add dirt to it, right? So I want some black screws. I feel like the paint's a little shiny for screws. So we'll add that. And then we'll add another layer for dirt, but we'll probably use the dirt layer more. We might add some chips in here because there'll be screwdrivers going in and out, right? But mostly we're going to do dirt. So let's do these front two screws as well. So we'll go back to the paint layer. We're not going to go over the top on these. Maybe these ones here we will a little more. So we can add some edge wear here. We're definitely going to want it on these edges of these screws. Maybe some chips in the middle. We'll probably want some around this end because like it's still going in and out of the holster, right? So what we'll do is we'll come to here, we'll select a skin tone. Let's just go with this really dark one. The reason I'm using this is because it's got like a slight shine, ever such a slight shine to it, but not an awful lot. And also I double check, yeah, so if you don't want it on subsurface because that will look strange. And then yeah, we'll add a bit of dirt to the outside of this. I feel like maybe this particular dirt is too dark, so let's add some light dirt. Yeah, that feels a bit better. And we can add some of this to around here. So there'll be dirt in the creases. There'll definitely be dirt inside here. Okay. So let's add a rough dirt pass to the front half of this gun. So I want some dirt. I do want some dirt on top of that. So we're going to smooth this out to make it look like fingerprints, right? So if we hold the smooth button, I think it's this one, which takes it to smoother, and we'll reduce this down. So you want the strength on the smooth all the way down so that it doesn't affect the oh, you know what I think I've done there? Painted that on the paint layer, yeah. So yeah, make sure you're on the right layer. Add some dirt. Add some. So again, with the dirt, you can be a bit more rough because people, you know, they just, something like this, people just grab it. So there's going to be like flecks of dirt all over the place, right? There'll be dirt around some of these edges in here. I won't go too far up because I'll paint this whole thing off camera as a speed sculpt. So again, with this set to 0, you can smudge this dirt so that it doesn't feel like just paint strokes, right? So with the smooth button, the smooth tool selected, see how it's not affecting the paint underneath. So with the smooth tool selected, just brush over all this to smear it a little. And we're going to do the same thing what we did with the paint. So we're going to reduce the brush size. We're going to come in a little bit closer to the dirt. We're going to start chipping away at areas so that it doesn't just feel like all smooth. So there should be some smoothness and some opacity to it. But if it's like just like here, for example, it's going to dull the shine. So like this, despite the fact that it would be dirty, the corners in particular, or anywhere where there's metal, is where it's rubbing, right? So dirt is not going to be any less affected by the rubbing than the paint is, right? So we're adding dirt, but we're also remembering that this thing goes in and out of a holster. So anywhere where it's like badly chipped means that that's where it gets rubbed a lot, right? I feel like that's a bit too much. We'll smooth this back out again. So it's fine to have some dirt on top of the silver, but the point is you just want it to feel like some of it smudges, like, you know, I could imagine some of this stuff here being fingerprint marks, right? But again, it doesn't change the fact that something rubs against this side of it and is going to sort of like start chipping away at the dirt a little, right? Let's get some of this off of the... Same here, the dirt mostly is going to be in the crevices, so I'm going to remove it from the tops. And that's kind of my process, guys. I mean, I'm kind of happy with how that looks so far. So yeah, that's essentially it. I mean, the one thing I would say to remember is if you're going to do a dirt layer, make sure that your smooth brush is set to like 0. Otherwise, you're going to be affecting the mesh rather than painting on it. And the other only real piece of advice is, like with the dirt particularly, is put it in the creases. That's where it's going to gather. And with the paint, it's going to be the edges. It's going to be anywhere where it's constantly being rubbed, like in and out of the holster. The trigger will have quite a bit on it, you know. The handle will probably have some, particularly around the back here where the palm sits, you know. Underneath here and around here, maybe if they have to take these parts off, where these screws come off, you know. Anywhere where people are going to interact with, it's going to need that treatment, right? So like I said, before I do stop the video, I just want to say that I am aware that there are other programs that do this better, but I'm trying to do all of it in Nomad because I want people to see what they can do with it. Plus, I enjoy it. Like, people are probably watching this and going, "You're freaking bonkers, mate. Why don't you just add a mask or do whatever like you would do in Substance?" But you know, like, again, this is a channel for Nomad artists, so I'm going to do as much of it. In fact, I'm going to do all of it inside of Nomad, apart from And again, I'm probably not going to do any animation on this channel. I might do another channel later down the line about animation. But yeah, like I want this channel to be about Nomad, so I'm not going to be rigging these. I'm not going to be doing anything, you know, animating these in any way. This is just, I'm really enjoying sculpting. It's a hobby that I have, and this is another reason I love Nomad, is that when I found Nomad, it gave me it was a good way to still sit and be with my, you know, my loved ones, and still be able to sit and do my hobbies and things that I enjoy. I just keep practicing sculpting, because when I'm sat at the desk, it's fine, it's cool, I love it up here, but then my girlfriend's sat in the living room by herself, and it's like, does she even have a boyfriend? So yeah, that's my process. We'll pause this, we'll stop the camera, and then we'll turn the rest into a speed sculpt, and you can just watch it till the end. I might talk about lighting it a little bit, but I might not, so we'll see how that goes. So we'll pause this and then we'll turn the camera off. Okay, so there you have it. Sculpting Skippy, that's how I handle hard surface sculpting and painting. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you made it to the end, I appreciate you. You can go ahead and if you can go ahead and like and subscribe for me, share the video if you know anyone that might find it useful or helpful. And I wanted to do this as a more of a sculpt with me rather than a click here, press here type of deal. So, you know, I hope it's good enough. I hope it helps anybody out, and it helps the few people that you know, were asking for a tutorial of sorts on how I do hard surface stuff. So yeah, once again, thanks very much everybody. I appreciate you all. Thanks for the love so far, and yeah, happy sculpting. I'll catch you in the next one.